All right, Lions fans, let's talk some Lions. Uh, we're going to go over some this upcoming off season, including the potential, I guess you could say, the pending potential of signing Campbell as they as the new head coach. We already have in place the general manager, and the next domino to fall is to address the head coach. And going into it and to say he's the front runner, he's the favorite, and the only thing that's left to do is to dot the I's and cross the T's to make it official. Dan Campbell would be the Lions' new head coach, which I don't disagree with the hire. Um, I'm not much of a follower of his or know much about him yet, but I would say this that if he has one thing going for him is where did he get his experience from, or in other words, where did he learn his craft from? Who was he around? And you could say his brief stint with the Lions as a player, but we're going to move that aside, and I'm going to go with him as when he stepped away from being a player to being up in the ranks of a coordinator, coach, assistant, whatever, and so forth. So several years he was around Sean Payton, which is a which is great by itself. Okay, and I believe as a player, I believe he has ties to Parcells somehow. I don't know how that works. I don't know if that's through the Sean Payton thing, but I know he was an interim coach at Miami and he ended up becoming the head coach or something like that. Uh, Somehow, I believe they when he was playing with the Lions or before he went to the Lions, he played with Parcells. I think so. Anyway, with that being said, I leave with that. But just him being around Sean Payton is enough for me. That doesn't equate that he would execute anything similar. But if his intern or his interim position as the Miami taking over for the Miami job is an indication of what he can possibly bring as a head coach, even as a very inexperienced coach, he can actually he can at least rally the troops not to the point for rah rah, but for execution. Their level of play increased. Even though they was in a dumpster fire there and they could have lied dead, but they came alive. All right. So, all right. That works well with me because this is like a similar situation with the Lions. The Lions is in a trash heap of misery based upon the previous regime, allegedly the previous regime. But want to say that trash heap is like 50 plus years of misery. So I can't put it off on Queen and Patricia as much as I would say they may have continued the flame of that fire. You know, they put oil to that fire, but yet and still the fire nonetheless was already done before they got here. So we'll start with there with Campbell being the new head coach, and then this is going on to his coordinators. And I'm in favor of this one guy in particular, and that's Wade Phillips. Now, my thing of Wade Phillips was when he was with Denver. He had two stints with Denver. The first impression that I go by with when I believe he was the head coach with Denver, and this is back in I want to say '94 when he had a game that he had to play against the 49ers. Now, this is the year that the 49ers was stack loaded. This is the year that they actually go on to win the Super Bowl. The 49ers was stack loaded, and it was just nothing he could do. Nothing he can do against that team with the Broncos. This team was nowhere near can possibly. I won't even say compete, but even rev up the challenge to compete. So they came in ready to lose. In other words, they came in defeated. And then the second stint is when he actually was I believe he was the defensive coordinator when they actually won the Super Bowl. The recent one with Demarcus Ware and I want to say Talib. I want to say Talib Kweli, as you could tell, but that's something else. Akeem, what is his name? Talib, the cornerback. I can't think of his name. I'm drawing a blank. With him and Demarcus Well and Von Miller, and their defense was pretty much stout, and I believe they won a title with that. Was that the Peyton Manning uh, team? If so, all right. Forgive me if it's not. And I like him as a defensive coordinator. He's recently coming out of retirement, or at least he's stating he's coming out of retirement. And I believe that he's rejuvenated. And he said the statement that he quoted was the statement that he made was he's he's retired from retirement, so he's ready to come back out. I will give him a shot if he's willing to come here, and I will let him run his 3-4 defense. I believe that's what he ran when he was with Denver. I let him run his 3-4 defense for two reasons. For one, that's what I believe that he's great at, and I believe this team is more suited for 3-4 defense than it is anything else. With of course, you're talking about some additions, to the defense, but I believe overall they could run a defense. And secondly, I would say that this is a team that's greatest success has came from the 3-4 defense. Now, somebody could say, well, they had good success when they was 11-5, and they ran what was that, the spread 9? No, 11. That wasn't spread 9. That was spread 9 was with with Swartz. 11-5 was with Cardwell. So I was that a 3-4 defense? No, that was a 4-3. Cardwell was a 4-3. But anyway, I believe that they was their roots of winning was back when it was 3-4. He's talking about with Jerry Ball in the middle, and you have Spielman to cover him and so forth. And you had a Benny Blades and Willie Clay and the original big play, Willie Clay, in the backfield. Not the backfield, in the secondary, along with, I believe, Ray Crockett and a few others. But anyway, their strength was that back in the day, and that's actually their roots. And if I'm looking at who they brought in Spielman and Barry Sanders, I almost want to say they're going to go similar in that direction. Barry Sanders is going to lean towards the run and shoot, presenting that type of deal for like in a coordinator, his input, that is. And of course, Spielman ran the 3-4. So that's my for Wayne Phillips. And if I were to go to the offensive side of the ball, even if I were to bring back Bevel has to. It's going to be a different team entirely. How the running of operations, how Bevel going to have to tweak himself, but at the same time he will go back to his roots. What I mean by that is what he did with Seattle is what I would want him to go back to. Not this Matthew Stafford-esque type of offense or this throwing the ball. Go back to Marshawn Lynch, beast mode. Go back to that, or if you use some weapons, you use some vertical weapons, you can use that. But anyway, that's if I decide to keep Bevel. If not, he can go in a different direction with a guy. More likely, I would be leaning towards something similar to the run and shoot, because you have a good to great tight end. Yeah, we're gonna keep him at good for now, but he's actually coming across pathways that possibly he could become great if you could take the next step in his game. And then you actually have a running game you can establish. So you can actually run a run and shoot, even though the run and shoot was based off of 4 receivers versus a tight end. But you could throw a tight end in there because Hawkinson vertical, route running is pretty good. So, he doesn't have to be based upon a dink and dump system. He can actually be a vertical threat. So you can still run a run and shoot with that. But anyway, now that's addressing Dan Campbell and his coordinators, and I have no idea about the coordinators' positions or who will be right for this position of this job. with the personnel that they have, and even to match with Dan Campbell, because I don't know much about him other than that he was with Sean Payton and he has some ties with Parcells as a player, from my understanding. Other than that, I don't know. And I pretty much going to imagine that he's going to bring more so that type of philosophy here than he would the philosophy that he learned when he was with Miami. And I believe I'm not talking about the philosophy that he was learning as a assistant up under the coach at the time. He's probably going to bring the system more of a Sean Payton ish, which would be Bill Parcells ish. So I'll take that over. But it's interesting though because it's one of the same like type math. It's interesting because what Quinn and Patricia built here is like they prepared it for Dan Campbell. And what I mean by that is Quinn and Patricia came up on a Belichick. Belichick came up on a Parcells. And even though Bill Belichick got a plethora of information all around from different places, even his start here in Detroit, but he has a wealth of knowledge from various different places. But the bulk of his information, from my understanding, came from Bill Parcells, which is something that Sean Payton came from, which is where Dan Campbell came from. So it's almost like the team is kind of like made for him. If I were to use a movie analogy with that, or a movie example, I should say, when I watch the Marvel movies, and one scene comes to mind, the Marvel Avengers Endgame, when they were assembling all they went back in time and they were assembling all the gems, the stones. And it was the Avengers was in discussion like who was going to actually take over who was going to put on the glove, to actually to wield the power of the glove of the gauntlet. And Hulk steps up and says like anybody else can't do it, only I can do it because the radiation from the stones is mainly gamma. And then he says like, well, I'm my ability to turn into the Hulk is gamma. So he's like, I'm made for this. So when I look at Dan Campbell, I look at it in that sense. The way that Bob Quinn and Patricia set it up, this team, is kind of like it's made for Dan Campbell to bring the life into it. Bob Quinn and Patricia tore down all the previous 9-7, 8-8 mantra. They tore it down. And if anybody going to equate that to wins and losses, you're missing what they did. When it comes to losing 50 plus years, it's no longer physical play. So it's not what you see on the field, it's mental. There's a reason why you up going to the fourth quarters and then you lose the game. And not just up under Patricia. This is years of decades of doing it this way. You find ways to lose the game. That's psychological. So I believe that Bob Quinn and them tore down that wall by raising up the standard that 9-7 is not good enough. And where did you raise that standard up? Not with the coaches, not with the coordinators, not with the position coaches, not with the players, but with the ownership. They approach it differently. They approach it not just for, hey, well, okay, if it's not costly, if it's not costing me too much, we can roll with it. But if you actually have them to elevate themselves into it or rejuvenate life into them where they could take the next step in ownership, which is what I believe that what they're attempting to do this year with the process, the coaching, evaluation and processing and all that, et cetera. So I believe they changed it. They literally changed the culture. And some people say like, no, they didn't change the culture because look at the locker room implosion. But you're going to have those that was stuck in apathy. All right, when you come to Detroit, it works like this. Of times past, you can be comfortable here, i.e. Pat Swilling. Or anybody would say that when they came here for a free agent, of course, you come here for the paycheck. All right. You're not coming here for no other reason. You're not coming here for title contention. You're not coming here for competitiveness. You're not coming here to be a contender. You're not coming for any other reason just to get paid, unless you're drafted here. So with that being said, for the most players, when when they do have their comments, when they come here, they say this team is ran totally different than where I'm accustomed from. Particularly if they came from a winning organization or more of established ownership, from ownership to general manager type, accountability type deal. If they come from that establishment, they're gonna say it's like night and day coming to the Lions organization. The Lions organization just does things differently. It kind of do it recklessly, and it's like they throw it on the wall to see if it sticks. And I believe Bob Quinn came here and gave it a structure, which is what's his job to do, was to tear down 9-7. To tear down 9-7, the reason why you are 9-7 is pretty much you don't have a structure, because that's average. That's like a multiple choice type deal. You pretty much can get 50% right or 50% wrong. And I believe that's what the Lions organization was. Is just there really wasn't much structure or accountability of structure, or structure accountability. I guess you could say it that way. So now it's just, I believe Bob Quinn, he elevated that, his approach that he brought. Now, somebody may say it didn't work out because of this. I don't believe that was his job. His job was to bring it, to elevate the whole culture away from 9-7. Otherwise, it would have been stuck the same way that it has been doing up to. If you notice, he totally shifted from how Cardwell did it. He shifted how Swartz did it. Now, those two actually have more winning successful, or more, they are more successful in the winning category, than of course than Matt Patricia was, right? But yet and still they couldn't compete to that next level. It's like, how can I say it? You have teams that can go to a next gear. They can play with you on one gear, and then they can go to a next gear when they think that you are in striking distance. They can go to a next gear. Up until Bob Quinn and Patricia got here, the Lions didn't have that as an option. If we can't beat you out the gate, or in other words, if the team doesn't roll over and allow us to beat them, then it's not going to happen. But I believe what Patricia did was give them this approach that we can beat. We're already on the level we can beat these teams. We just need another gear, and that's why I think where Patricia failed, and he didn't have another gear to him to take the next step forward. That's why I believe where maybe Dan Campbell can actually succeed at, because I believe he has another gear to him. Another gear, like, okay, we're going to play 8-8 ball, right? But for you to go from 8-8 to being above average is that next gear. I believe Matt Patricia has the gear to be 8-8. Now, somebody would say, like, well, then that actually is contradictory to what Bob Quinn was saying about being 9-7 not good enough. 9-7 on the field is one thing, but the 9-7 approach is what he was trying to get rid of. It's a mental thing. The team that they came into, let's say with the Slade, with the Glover Quins and that Diggs and that cast, they was okay with 9-7. They was okay with it. It doesn't matter what they say. They was okay with 9-7. So anybody that was a part of that, it's okay to be 9-7. Your mouth may say we're above 9-7. We're actually a great team, but your play on the field is 9-7. What I mean by that is that, say for example, Ben Wallace is nowhere near Shaquille O'Neal, right? Nowhere near Shaquille O'Neal in terms of on the court accomplishment, right? However, I would actually take Ben Wallace over Shaquille O'Neal for this very reason. Now, Shaquille O'Neal may have all the talent in the world, and in terms of, we would call it dominance. I disagree, but in terms of dominance, right? He could get you 27 and 15. As big and strong as he is, he's only getting you 27 and 15. Some people say, well, that's good enough. You can win with that. As big and he's the most dominant guy in the world, but you give me numbers that David Robinson can give me. You give me a number that Patrick Ewing can give me, but you're dominant, more dominant in both of them. But you're not. Your numbers is not succeeding past them. However, what I'm saying is Ben Wallace impacted the game with far more less than Shaquille O'Neal. So that's what I'm saying. I can do more with Ben Wallace than I can with Shaq. Because Shaq has a ceiling. I'm not going any higher than this. I'm dominant. I'm okay with being dominant at this level, even though he has another gear that he can go to. This is what brings the interview when Kobe made the comment in the interview to Shaq that if Shaq would have stayed if Shaq would have been in the gym like Kobe was, Shaquille O'Neal would have been the greatest of all time. Because with his talent alone was good. Then of course Shaq says like he disagrees because he would say like, well, I put forth a lot of effort, but your effort was limited. It wasn't 100% all the time because he didn't have to do 100% all the time. Shaq at 50% was probably better than majority of the centers that he played against on a given basis. But yet and still, he would, for a guy like Hakeem Olajuwon, for a guy like Ben Wallace, he gets stumped with. Or a guy, even to the less extent, Big Country, he would get stumped by. You know, he Big Country, is that Eric Montrose or is that Reeves, Bryant Reeves? That's Bryant Reeves. Bryant Reeves. He would lose. I mean, because psychologically, he couldn't take the next step to the next whatever. But that's what I'm saying about Shaq. He would stop at a certain point because the certain point he stopped at is dominant than what over 50% of the league, of let's say 75% of the centers of the league. So you ain't got to do anything else. So I say all that to say that with Quinn and what Bob Quinn and what they did was actually elevated the play of the standard of play on the field. Now, okay, you got Darius Slay, you have Golden Tate, you have Glover Quinn. So those are your three guys that, or even Quandre Diggs you want to throw in there. But those three is your Golden Tate, Darius Slay, Glover Quinn was arguably your three best players that they let go during the Quinn Patricia era, right? They let them go, but they are 9-7. Nah, I don't need. They were okay with being 9-7. They were okay with that. So I need somebody on Sue level where he's crying because they lost that game that they were so close to winning. I need that passion. I don't need it's okay to lose. Even though people say like he was crying because he was leaving Detroit, I disagree. I think he was crying because they were so at the door. And I honestly believe that would have determined his decision to stay here. Now, with that being said, that's going to lead on to my next point. Actually, this is going to be like a 7-point deal. So this is going to be kind of lengthy of a video as normal. And if I can, I'm trading Stafford, even with the cap hit. And my idea that I'm looking for is a Herschel Walker type of move, or I have the Herschel Walker move in mind. What I mean by that, it may be is risky, you know, with this deal because it's a $19 million cap hit, right? Now the fans may say like that's a lot of money, particularly when you're going into the offseason with $11 million to spend. So you got 19. I don't know how you would do the cap hit with 19 million, but I look at it this way: Stafford is on books to make 33 million this year. All right. If I keep him, he's going to make 33 million. If I let him go, it's a $19 million cap hit. So if I trade him, I don't know how I will be able to do it, but this will be some shrewd maneuvering from the financial management, the capologists, capologists, as well as the general manager. What their plan is, I would take the risk of letting Stafford go, even if I'm not getting top return. $33 million for Stafford is not good enough. Some people say, well, just keep him to the next year. No. The reason why I'm not keeping him because of this record. 44-90. As all were good to come with him, I got to equate all the bad that come with him too as well. 44-90. And I can't solely put that on him. However, that is with him. When he approached the game, that is inside of him. Is either he's going to try to prove that that statistic is wrong, or he's going to fall into place of that statistic. Either way, I want to wipe the slate clean and wash my hands with it. I want to let him go. So I'm looking for a Herschel Walker type deal, even if it is coming to the extent that I'm not receiving, the best return. I am. Let's say, like, for example, if I were to trade him to a team and they gave me later picks this year but early picks next year. So, and I believe that's how the good teams actually proceed to go forward in the offseason. Next year's draft, I think, will be a lot better than this year's draft. So you give me some assets this year, maybe a player, maybe some later draft picks, but next year you're giving me your upper draft picks, your higher draft picks, and I'll make a deal that way for Stafford if I can. I don't have to get a first this year because I don't think Stafford is worth the first, but of course, depending on his contract, he's $33 million on the cap. So no, give me a player if I can. And some capital, some draft capital, some this year and maybe some next year, and you got a deal. I take the $19 million cap hit, which is going to be actually kind of, like I said, it's wishful thinking, but that's my ideal. Number 3, I'm not signing back Kenny Golladay, Okoro, Amendola, anybody that was here part of last year's team that is due to a increase in salary or an extension. I'm not signing them back. Maybe with the exception of David Blau if he's not up under contract. David Blau is probably the only guy that I would bring back. And the reason why I would bring back David Blau is because I'm letting go of Stafford. And otherwise, I am not letting go. I'm not keeping Kenny Golladay and so forth because I believe I can get better with less. Now, what I mean by that is is it possible that I will find equal talent as him? No, but I don't need equal talent to him. I need complementary pieces. I need a team. If they're going to keep making one player above everybody else, they've done it they've done it twice. They've done it with Calvin Johnson and they've done it with Barry Sanders. It didn't get them anywhere. The highest they got with that was the NFC title game. And they tore it down because it was on the cusp of actually continue to build, but then they tore it down. So building off one person in that regard doesn't work. Excuse me. So Kenny Golladay is expendable for me. I can get something else that can actually, with that, of course, that also includes, that entails, or that's dependent upon the coordinator, the offensive coordinator that I'm going to get. So the offensive coordinator will determine if Kenny Golladay is even worth even coming back at all. But I'm not signing him anyway because it's going to cost me too much. I already have, if I'm going to keep Stafford because I can't move him, I already have $33 million in him. And then Kenny Golladay is going to want 15 plus per year. I'm not going to do it. That's on offense. And your defense is what? Suspect. Kenny Golladay is not worth the investment. Not worth. Let me change that. He's worth the investment, but I can't afford that investment. All right, number 4. If I could, now all this is not going to be what I'm going to do, is what I could do if it's a possibility. So out of these 7 points, if I can get maybe like 2 or 3 of them, that would be fantastic. Maybe possibly at the most 2. So we're coming down to the 4th point. If I can go in the offseason and somehow I can sign these 3 players. If I can sign Sue, Von Miller, and Patrick Peterson. Sue, Von Miller, and Patrick Peterson. The reason why I believe I can is based upon maybe not for money reasons, but for what I have in office reasons. So if I can get Dan Campbell to get Wade Phillips here, I can get Von Miller here. And possibly I can get Sue here based upon that. So, and if I get Patrick Peterson, because I believe that that's running dry with the Cardinals, if I can get him here, and the reason why I'm targeting those three out of anybody that's young, because my team is predominantly young. I'm going from the middle, or going to the on defense. I'm going from the middle all the way back, from the top middle all the way to the back middle. Well, what I'm saying is I'm going from D tackle, linebacker core, and I'm going to secondary. All right, I'm going down the middle. So I need elite leadership or foundational pieces on each one of those tiers of one of those, that structure tier, or how can I say that? Each one part of the structure, or each there were positional corp, if I may say it that way. Von Miller, he upgrade, even though he had a huge, injury situation type deal, and I'm not looking for him to be the Von Miller of that, but I'm here to basically make the standard to go his level or higher in my linebacker core. I need my linebackers to have an identity. I need my linebackers to have accountability. So that's why we're bringing Von Miller. Why am I bringing in Sue? Because he immediately he makes Trey Flowers, Pennicini, Danny Shelton better. Makes them better. Makes them better immediately. Immediately makes them better. Even at the age that he's at. Because what I believe Corey Williams did for him is what I believe he can do for Pennicini and Shelton. He actually elevate their game to the next level. Now, they may not have his talent, his ability. However, they could benefit off of that. Now, he may not be drawing double teams or triple teams or all that good stuff, but he still can beat you single coverage. Still can beat you single coverage. So if you're going to single him up, he can beat you, even at the age that he's at. Patrick Peterson, my secondary doesn't have no leadership. No leadership at all. And I want to say you probably can't get no better leadership than Patrick Peterson in the secondary. Right now at his age, and particularly with the Lions, you have Amari Warrior, you have Tracy Walker, you have, of course, Jeff Okudah. You have no leadership back there. And so somebody is saying, or even to the extent of the other safety they brought in from New England that people are down on, there's no leadership back there. There is no leadership. This team is only going to go as its strengths. And if there's no accountability, there's no level of play, standard level of play, can't help but to fall to pieces. So that's why I will go with those three. Now, I'm going to, let's say, with the fifth one, I'm going to go with this. Now, this ties into the whole Stafford thing. Well, if I can trade, okay, so like well, I can say what's going to include the Stafford deal. But if I can't move Stafford, so like I'm stuck, the organization says like, well, we're going to keep the $33 million against the cap hit versus the loss of $19 million. And I said like I can't have nobody want to trade with Staff for Staff to give me what I can use back in return. So like I'm stuck with them. So here I go with the seventh pick in the draft. I'm targeting to do two things with that seventh pick. Either I'm going to trade it for some young talent. So this is my idea. If it can actually happen, say for example, like an offensive guard and Nelson with the Colts. If I could get, not saying him per se, but somebody on that level, because I'm targeting with that seventh overall pick is to make one position group that elite. So I need something to build off. I need foundation to develop an identity. This team doesn't have an identity because they never completed an area. Bob Quinn was doing a good job of actually assembling to that point that they were missing like one off-season draft to complete that whatever that group it is. So, well, the offensive line is like missing one piece, in my opinion. They're missing one piece. And if I can target like with the 7th overall pick, and if I can get get Nelson, or if I could package the 7 with a player to go get another player to make one group elite because they're missing like one player or so, I'm doing it. Um, of course, I imagine that the Colts wouldn't let go of Nelson. And another target of mine is Josh Allen from the Jags. And I imagine they wouldn't let go of him because he's cheap, he's young, and he's part of the future. So I get it. But even if, well, you never know. They may want that 7th overall, and I would trade it for him. I don't know how the money lines up with the cap and everything else. See, all that is pending. So, but I take all that definitely in consideration. But I would definitely be aggressive with that 7th overall pick. I wouldn't keep it because this draft is really spotty with the bang for the buck type deal. I want somebody to come in and not turn the team from worst to first, but I need a very impactful player. I believe last year's draft was good because they brought in complementary pieces, to actually make a cohesive unit. I didn't when they drafted Jeff Okudah, I didn't expect him to be Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders. I didn't expect him to be that. I expect him to be an Eric Allen type guy. Eric Allen wasn't the key guy for, as you see, I'm going back in history. He wasn't the key guy for the Philadelphia Eagles, but however, you didn't have to worry about him on that back end. When you had him in the back end, and then you had Seth Joyner and Clyde Simmons in the middle, and you had Reggie White up atop. So it was a team. And Jeff Okudah coming in his second year, he's going to show his role in that aspect. Him and a Warrior, I believe, with the right defensive coordinator. Say like if they got Wade Phillips, I think their game will go leaps and bounds. Trey Flowers' game will go leaps and bounds. Penasini would increase. I believe Okudah would increase. A Warrior would increase. Tracy Walker would increase. Even Jared Davis would increase. That's if they decide to keep him or not. If he's going to count against the cap, where you can cut him, and it doesn't count against the cap, you let him go. I'm not keeping any dead weight. And dead weight is like you have 3 years to show from each year of a rapid improvement, taking the next step. I'm not talking about body improvement where you picking up weight or you lifting muscles, or you gaining muscles. And no, I need on the field that each year you actually increased another tier to your game. You improved each year. So I don't see that with Jared Davis. So if I can let him go and it doesn't count against the cap, I'm letting him go. I'm not bringing him back. So, but and I'm gonna stop with that. With number 5, I have two more points, and is actually I have a David Blau, keeping him as the quarterback. That's ties into if I can let go of Stafford. I will sign David Blau as my quarterback, and you actually can win with him if you do it correctly. But I will go into that to the next video. And then the 7th one will be about building team identity and what type of team what I would like to have on offense and as well as defense and that type of deal. All right, we're going to close it out with that. Lions fans, I salute.